Welcome to the President's Desk on 96.9 FM KGPC and Peralta Television, where Laney College President Dr. Rudy Besikoff speaks with community members, colleagues, and student leaders. This program is supported by Technical Director Felicia Bridges, who co-hosts along with Laney College journalism major Randy Cross and President Dr. Rudy Besikoff.
Pull up a chair and join me, Felicia, and Randy at the President's Desk today. Biology and broadcasting, the killer bees, are the topics on the table today as we chat with Laney College professor Emily Quach. And then we're going to go in an entirely different direction today, welcoming Chicago radio and Behind the Song podcast host Janda Lane, who will be joining us from the Windy City. In and around our guests, we'll be checking in on student life with Randy and put the spotlight, as always, on our partners of Laney. As always, the President's Desk airs at 2 a.m. and 2 p.m. on FM 96.9 KGPC or kgpc969.org and can be seen Sundays on Peralta TV from 1 to 2 p.m. Can't catch us then? That's all right. All our episodes are available anytime on demand at kgpc969.org, along with other great Peralta programming. And as always, we can be heard on Apple Podcasts and iHeartRadio. Randy, welcome back. Tell our listeners how they can get in touch with us.
Welcome back.
Yes, you can email us at laneypodcast@peralta.edu. Like us on Facebook at Laney College President's Desk Podcast. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Laney Podcast. You can also find selected interviews and content from the show on YouTube by subscribing to the Laney College President's Desk channel.
This is Rudy Besikoff, and I'm the proud president of Laney College, a pillar that has been serving the greater Oakland community since 1927 and has been known as Laney now for more than 65 years, and where once again spring semester is free. Great teams are what it's all about, and my office is no exception. In addition to my co-hosts, I want to recognize Elena Sanchez, new to the president's office, who now helps us booking guests for the show, as well as Raya Zion, our show contributor. But getting things kicked off today is my co-host, Felicia Bridges. Felicia, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Randy, how are you?
Oh, Rudy's doing well too, but I'm doing well.
And here we go with
it's
it.
Okay. No,
Dr. Rudy, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Actually, just came over from the Mongolian students and employees put on a Lunar New Year celebration on the quad today.
Oh, nice.
Which was great. And so just came from that. And actually, I think it's a good segue. I'm going to go straight to our Partners of Laney feature, where we talk about both on-campus and off-campus opportunities, both in industry and other places for careers for our students. First, I'm pleased to announce that fellow Oakland Rotary Club member Owen Krebs with Yellow Jacket HVAC came to our campus actually last week to get in touch with us, including our HVAC faculty and staff, letting us know that they need people. They need heat pump installers and other things. So certainly we'll give some contact information in just a moment, but that's an opportunity for our students. Also, March 8th in Oakland Chinatown, from 1 to 3 o'clock, they'll be partnering with us to put on an entrepreneurship fair. So you certainly want to go ahead and get down to Oakland Chinatown, which is always a pleasure. And then I also want to send a special shout out. Felicia, you might remember Joe Fotu with Kuberg. He was a Laney College alum.
Yep. I do.
Well, I was invited on the 26th of February to ribbon cutting at their new facility in San Leandro. But I was certainly not a VIP there if you looked at some of the other guests. In fact, Secretary of Energy, as in Biden's Secretary of Energy, Jennifer Granholm was there as the guest speaker. Oh. And sustainable energy, green transportation was on the table. And of course, everybody knows, for example, Tesla and hybrids and all that. But did you know now that a lot of that battery energy is now going to aviation, airplanes? So that's something I learned about, which was kind of interesting.
That will be interesting.
Yeah. So
I don't know. That kind of sounds scary.
So anyway, all of that is going on. That's all right. You know what? It'll get to us at a time when it hopefully won't be scary.
Won't be scary.
And something also not scary is the April 27th CTE open house. How's that for a segue? On the Laney College Quad, which will be happening from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's a Saturday. We want the community to come out and show up as they always do. Putting together this update is Raya Zion, our employment services specialist. And if our listeners or viewers have questions, they should reach out to her at rzion@peralta.edu. And Randy, what's the phone number for Raya?
Phone number for Raya is 510-464-3530.
And one more time.
That is 510-464-3530.
All right. So we were talking about energy and sustainability. I think this is a perfect opportunity to welcome for the first time at the President's Desk, Professor Emily Quach. Emily, what kinds of sustainable energy things are you doing now?
Well, I currently drive a Prius Prime.
All right.
And to me, it's about going into the idea of being able to let go of gas, but I can't really, and still be able to charge my car.
Okay, so that's a hybrid then.
So it's like fully chargeable?
So it's a mixture,
Oh, okay.
basically.
All right.
I could add in gas, and I can also charge. So it's kind of like a more advanced version of hybrid.
Okay. Now, I would never admit to this in a public setting, such as a radio show, but I have been on occasion in a Tesla when somebody guns it and it, has that super acceleration. Do hybrid vehicles have that or not
Oh,
necessarily?
you feel it. If you're a first-time driver for EV, you definitely learn a process of how to drive. It's definitely different than gas driving.
Okay. Do you ever go to the charging stations?
I currently have the opportunity to charge in a garage. I live with my parents, and I just charge there.
All right. I had one of those old Nissan Leafs. They had like 2012 or 13 and had range of maybe 70 miles, which meant I was plugging in all over Los Angeles and Orange County and making lots of friends at those charging stations. But how's this semester going?
So this semester's been going pretty great. Happy Asian New Year. We just celebrated. I'm so happy you brought that up during our announcements.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. What are you teaching this semester?
This semester, I'm currently teaching for the biomanufacturing program, which is housed in the biology department at Laney College. And the two courses I teach is Bio 72, which is biotech instrumentation, and it is a dual enrollment course. And my second
dual enrollment. What's that?
Oh, dual enrollment is where we have a contract with AUSD and AUSD, Alameda Unified School District High School, and the specific high school is called Encinal High School. And the students come to our campus and they take a regular college class.
So the class is actually at the Encinal campus? Oh, it's at Laney.
The students come to Laney because
fantastic.
we have the equipment at Laney.
Okay, I'm glad I asked that. Typically, dual enrollment classes are on the high school campus, but it's great to see we're pushing envelopes and bringing students onto our facility.
Do they bus the students over, or it's on them to get here on their own?
We treat the students like a college student. So they take the bus, they have their parents drop them off. They have, most of them are juniors and seniors, so they're also on the road too, guys.
Gotcha.
That sounds pretty cool. We also have KGPC has a partnership with Encinal High School, and they provide us with the news. So
Right.
I like our relationship with Encinal, and it sounds like you're doing some really good work.
I can just add in one point where one of my students are actually part of that in the classroom.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah. Walk us through a typical day for you as a college professor.
So as a college professor, my typical day, I wake up like everyone. I get ready to go to work, like packing my lunch, making a cup of coffee or tea, and I arrive on campus. And from campus, I walk from the parking lot, and this is I'm talking about Laney College. I'm walking from the parking lot into our amazing campus where we see everything every day. I get the smells of culinary program baking. I do go to the cafeteria for hot water, and then I make my way into my office. And in my office, I start off the day by using the Calm app, CALM, and I listen to a 7-minute story before starting the workday. And to me, it's about setting the tone for the entire day. I believe that positivity everywhere will help make your life a better day. So by starting that off, it helps me to improve my teaching styles every day. After the Calm app, I go into office hours, so from around 8:30 to 9:30 this semester. And the reason why I do it so early is because I'm catering towards my high school students. My high school students have a free block at that same time, so that's why I thought like office hours would be perfect at that time if they choose to come.
Making yourself available, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Great. You know, I'm just looking at classes you've taught. I've noticed microbiology's been part of it as well. Now, you know, I'm kind of the person that took my biology classes, did the frog dissection, did all that stuff, and then decided to be a language major. Can you tell us a little bit, for somebody like me, tell us about microbiology. What is it, and why is it so important?
So microbiology is actually everyday life, and you can't even imagine it. So I usually ask my students to use a dishwasher. In the laboratory classroom, we usually use something similar to a dishwasher to go ahead and sterilize or clean the utensils or equipment we're using in lab. And usually my hook for the classroom is for the regular college student, do you drink? Because that's part of our everyday lives. Something like a beverage like beer or wine is actually the world's oldest biotech product, where we use little microbes to make it, and that's called the fermentation process. So that's microbiology.
Wow, that's makes it hit close to home for probably several of our listeners.
I was just thinking that's a great way to pull students into the major.
Yes.
Because I'm thinking he's wearing beer and wine. Nice.
Let's say I am sitting on the fence about what to major in. What would be your pitch for biology, or even for biomanufacturing?
I would say go explore it. If you don't explore it, you never know. So just try it out, see if it fits. If not, it's okay.
Okay, excellent. What got you into it?
So I was actually a student here at the Peralta Community College system, and this actually was a lot of years ago, and I was that person that went to go ahead and failed chemistry. And after failing chemistry, I decided to go take other science courses like physics, organic chemistry, biology. And of all the courses, I found biology to really resonate with me. And in particular, I really do enjoy lab. So I took Bio 75 here at Laney College, which I currently teach. And I fell in love with everything that happens in a lab. Reading the standard operating procedure, knowing the batch record. I took one course here, and that made me think that I have a major now. It's going to be biotechnology. So after finishing here, I went off to Davis. I majored in biotech, specializing in fermentation microbiology, and doing research in the lab. So that's how I started off.
Did you ever get to Woodstock's Pizza when you were in Davis?
Yes.
Okay, that's a must.
I was going to ask, you said you went ahead and failed chemistry. Did you not like it, or?
It's not that I don't like it. So with chemistry, I had to take it, and because I had to take it, I didn't do so good. So from that mentality, I do understand that some courses I'm not always going to get an A. If I get the C, I pass it so I can take another course that I really wanted to take.
Oh. How about biomanufacturing? That's probably something where maybe there's more of a degree of separation in terms of knowledge with the general public. What can you tell us about biotechnology, biomanufacturing?
Actually, back to the story about beer.
Okay.
Beer was the first.
I sense a theme today, Felicia.
So thinking about beer being the first biotech product, biotechnology is everywhere. So it's just a big umbrella. And you can think about it in very simple terms, like when you're in your own kitchen and you found the perfect recipe for a cookie, for example, and it's your special recipe, you're going to go ahead and want to share it with the world. And with that, you're going to go through a lot of research and development. And to make food like a cookie okay for the public, it goes through approval processes like, Food Drug Administration, FDA.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then when you need to mass manufacture it, so like Ghirardelli making their box cookies, you want to make it safe for the public, and that's what biomanufacturing is.
So what a student coming in, what kind of classes can they expect to take? What's the day-to-day rigor going to be like if you're a bioman major?
For a bioman major at Laney College, you would start off with our introduction to biomanufacturing. So it could be Bio 75, Bio 76, or Bio 78. And then you go into more advanced classes. And here at Laney, we're going to go ahead and focus in on using fermentation.
Wow.
We have the bioreactors that you see probably growing all the microbes to help to get an end product. So at the end of the day, you're producing something to help someone.
Wow. So that intro course, what you've described, is fascinating. And before we move on to some of the other coursework, I know Randy has something very important to tell our listeners.
Yes, I just want to remind you that you are listening to the President's Desk, heard on 96.9 KGPC. Check us out at kgpc969.org and also on Peralta TV.
So you take the intro course, you keep studying. What are some kind of hands-on learning experiences that a student can anticipate in future classes?
So some of the hands-on learning experiences is being able to read standard operating procedures. So like basically a protocol. In a biomanufacturing company, they expect their employees to go ahead and be able to look at a protocol, perform the tasks, and at the end of the day, be able to communicate and collaborate with their teams. So in my classroom this semester, I always have the students every week make up new teams. Each person is going to have a different role. And the roles could be like team lead, note taker, lab technician. And the students will go ahead and change roles throughout the entire semester, change teams throughout the entire semester, so that they can be able to collaborate with anyone they work with.
Is that collaboration something people can expect in the work setting as well?
Yes. So biomanufacturing is also a career technical ed course. So therefore, we want to prepare our students for their careers. And in my world of high school students, their career next step will be to the four-year college.
If we're talking technology, I'm sure people would think the names Apple and then, of course, Microsoft. How about biomanufacturing? Who's out there kind of as our major industry partners?
Genentech, Bayer is housed really close to here. We have startups like PowBio, Geltor in the Emeryville area. In Alameda Island, there are a few startup companies there, of which like Science XYZ, I got to tour that place last semester.
Okay. I'm going to preface my question, of course, by sending a shout out to our partners with Alameda Unified School District as well as Oakland Unified School District, just for the ongoing partnership we've had with our dual enrollment classes. But I'll go ahead and ask you, what's it like for high school students who take college? And then at the same time, what's it like for you as a professor teaching high school college students?
So for a high school student taking my course, I give them the same rigor I would give any college student. I follow the course outline of record to teach. And for me, I do understand that high school students and college students have a different mindset. And I had to be a little bit more on the disciplining end for that mindset with the high school students so that they know the value of education. Because at the end of the day, I do believe that education is meant to be shared. And some students, if they don't think it's important to them, I ask them, why are they here? And I will point it out. I will be the bad guy in class because I would like to teach them the best.
So I'm a biotech major, or at least I want to be. I'm a student. What are the foundational courses that I need to take in order to really to major in biomanufacturing?
So you'd start off with biology courses, and you'd also go into microbiology courses, which is a little bit more intense. And then you'll see, you'd have to take chemistry before going into microbiology. That's a prereq that we have here. And afterwards, you can go ahead and take more advanced level classes. And it is your choice to go ahead and transfer to a 4-year or to start working in a biotech company.
One of the advantages of having a student co-host is that I can go ahead and ask this question. Randy, science classes at Laney College, what have you taken?
What have I taken so far? I'm in physical geography. I don't know if that's considered science.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
But yep, that's the only one so far.
Is it Professor Razan?
No.
Or is it Schwartz, or who's your?
I have Schwartz.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Excellent. Okay, good. So, Emily, I know you came up to us, and just very impressive as I got to interview you and bring you on board. But I understand you came through the Faculty Diversity Internship Program. Could you tell our listeners a little bit about that and how it brings people into the faculty ranks in the Peralta Community Colleges?
So FDIP is a great community to be a part of. As a student, I applied through a Google search. I found the program off of Google, and you get to go through a lot of presentations to prepare you to become a faculty member. I went through a Master's of Science program where I just learned how to do research, present my work, and collect data. But as a faculty role, it's a little bit different, and that's what FDIP did for me.
Okay, so can you tell us what FDIP is?
Oh, I'm a bad teacher. Oh.
Actually, Faculty Diversity Internship Program. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
No problem. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's it meant to you, just in terms of your preparation?
So what FDIP has meant for me is that I got to get very close with a mentor. And through mentorship, I believe I was able to excel as an instructor. My mentor is currently my colleague now and also on my TRC committee. And
that's your tenure committee. Oh, okay.
Yes.
So that's pretty high stakes. Okay. Well, I think having that connection there has been something great. So that's wonderful. Can you stick around for a few minutes? We're going to welcome in our next guest, but just, along the way, kind of building up a podcast and everything, you kind of try to go some interesting directions. And I think this is a new one for the President's Desk. And straight from WDRV, FM 97.1 in Chicago, it gives me great pleasure to welcome, heard Pacific Standard Time from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., Janda Lane. Janda, welcome to the President's Desk in Oakland, California. How you doing? Yeah. No, just first of all, my compliments to you on your podcast, excuse me, I almost did it with VH1, Behind the Song. Hold on, we can't hear her. Oh. There we go. You know what? Jana, we're going to start over. All right. So,
okay.
Anyway, listeners, it's a great pleasure to welcome. She can be heard on FM 97.1 in Chicago, WDRV, and through her podcast, Behind the Song, Janda Lane. Janda, how are you? And welcome to the President's Desk.
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me.
Excellent. Well, you can't quite see it, but I also, in the studio, I have my co-host, Felicia Bridges, as well as student journalism major Randy Cross, and we even have a biology professor in the room, Professor Emily Quach. So you're in good company here.
Well, I can tell you that's more professors than I've been around in a while.
Okay.
So,
well,
pleasure to be joining you guys.
Okay. Well, just for our listeners, your podcast, Behind the Song, can you just run, for those who haven't heard it before, can you tell us about it?
Sure. Behind the Song is sort of an extension of what I do on the air here at WDRV in Chicago. We're an FM classic rock station. We've been in Chicago for 20 plus years, and that is our bread and butter, classic rock music, Led Zeppelin, The Who, Pink Floyd, etc. And that's what we play every day. The podcast came about when I joined WDRV in 2018. The company that owns WDRV is Hubbard Broadcasting, and they are really, really interested in developing podcasts. And that was one of the things that I was approached with when I came here. And I was asked if I was interested in doing something like that. So, of course, I said yes. And I just thought that perhaps if I gave people, about a 10-minute dose of a specific song and the lyrics and a little bit of the history that was happening in the life of the songwriter or in the band, with maybe a touch or two on some, cultural moments that were happening around that same time, then if I did it quickly and well enough, then people might be interested in it. And now here I am 126 episodes later. So.
Wow, I'm only about 65 behind you.
Yes. Well, that's how you and I met.
That's right. And just to let you know, big fan. And my personal favorite was your podcast where you described One by U2 off Octung Baby. That was it. But I see our co-hosts are waving at me with questions galore, so I'll step aside.
I really like the concept of your show. And I want to know, how did you come up on that idea? And tell me how, I guess this is a two-part, and tell me how do you get the information, the backstory, the behind-the-scenes story to do your podcast?
Excellent question. Thank you. Thank you for that. Well, the first thing that I try to do with any episode is to make sure that I have the information correct. So as much as I can, without in some occasions, I have firsthand experience with interviews that I've done with some of these artists in the past, because I've been in radio for a very long time. Not always, though, especially when we're talking about, someone like Peter Green from the original Fleetwood Mac, who's no longer with us, and that kind of thing. So in that case, I try as much as possible to find video interviews with those artists, and try to get it as much as I can from the horse's mouth, and rely less on, articles and magazines, although I do source from there as well. But they're usually your big ones, your reputable, rock magazines, Rolling Stone and stuff like that, But as much as I can, I try to get it directly from the artist. A lot of what I work with, in this genre is a lot of it's public knowledge. So I try to find something that would maybe surprise someone who's been a fan of a band or of an artist for a long time, or who knows the song inside and out because they listen to it, their parents listen to it, and so on and so on. But I try to always find something interesting as much as possible, that might not be as widely known. But to answer the question, as much as possible, from video footage that I find really on YouTube, or if there's been a documentary made. That's where I source a lot of my material.
Yeah.
And so I understand you host a 5-hour radio show every weekday. Is that right?
Yes. So yes, that is
how
true.
How do you find the time to get your content together and your research together? Like how much time do you spend?
Janda, we're struggling a little bit here with getting 1 hour together, so you got to tell us.
Well, very good question. I don't know, actually, how how it all happens. But I carve out time in the morning before I go on the air. I spend a lot of time. I spend at least one of my weekend days doing research for the podcast. I mean, not all day, but a good bit of time. And then at night, I'm usually, to be honest with you, I'm trying to find things that are relevant in Chicago for the radio show, things that have happened here locally, because that's what our, for the most part, our Chicago area listeners want to know about, or they want to think, at least when they're listening to me on the radio, that I'm right there with them, So I try to stay up to date locally. I do, the music research isn't as intensive for my daily show because I do enough of that already. It's sort of just intrinsic knowledge at this point, when I'm talking about a band that we play on the air. I guess that's part of the job description. If you're going to be a classic rock DJ, tend to know a little bit about, the artists. But a lot of it is just really, I spend a lot of time on my phone, scrolling. I mean, you name it. I try to have some sort of a good grasp of what's going on there, musically. There's sites that I go to a lot, and a lot of local stuff, like I said, for the radio show. For the podcast, it's like I said, it's a whole different ball of wax, because I'm trying to find a nugget that isn't known and tell the correct story. So in about a 10-minute spiel. So that's a little bit different. But to answer your question, I don't know. I think I'm always working, which is fine.
The last time you were interviewed, who interviewed you and what was it for?
The last time I was interviewed, I did something with a couple of local podcasts here, and I've done a lot of interviewing, on the other side of the chair. The last interview that I did personally was with George Thorogood.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was awesome. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, because my podcast is, the format is basically like an essay type format. I don't spend a lot of time on the other side of the chair. So this is kind of nice for me, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Here at KGPC, we have, kind of rookie-ish college presidents that try to broadcast, and we have student journalists and people working the board. And on that note, I'll just remind our listeners very quickly that you're listening to the President's Desk podcast right here on 96.9 FM KGPC, also heard at kgpc969.org.
Great job.
Thank you. Janda, just somebody wanting to kind of break into the business of radio or broadcasting, because you've done a lot of producing as well. What advice do you give people that are kind of just getting started or kicking the tires?
I was hoping you'd ask me this question. I would say that not much has changed since I started doing radio. When I went to community college in my hometown of Charlotte, I went to Central Piedmont Community College, and from there I went to the Carolinas Broadcasting School, and those two were sort of intertwined a little bit. And then I got my first job in radio, and I have not looked back since. But I don't think that the rules have changed much. The tool set is different now, but it's really starts with the attitude and wanting to be, in the radio station environment, doing the work. I would say just make yourself available as much as you can. Listen a lot, and ask questions as they come up. And if you don't get something right away, keep trying, and just make sure that people know that you are interested in it and that you're there, willing and ready to work. That's the number one thing. That's really, I think, how everyone gets started. In my case, I just wouldn't leave. So finally someone put me on the air. But it's the desire, the willingness to work. And then these days, fast forward to 2024, I would say as much as you can, make yourself sort of a Swiss Army kind of a toolkit type of person, in that, you're working on your on-air delivery, you're reading lines aloud to yourself and recording them and listening to them back until they don't make you cringe anymore. And then you try to set up your own little, say, a news piece or something like that you can, deliver and feel like you've done an okay job with. Then try to shoot video with yourself, and as much as you can, like, kids today, they've got the jump on it. They're doing Instagram, they're doing TikTok, apply all that stuff and make it useful if you can to your radio base or your station as well, because there's always going to be a need for that as time goes on. There's always going to be a need for people who can deliver on the air, but then can also maybe put together an interesting little video or something like that for the station at large. So it all comes down to desire and willingness to work, and to take rejection as it comes at first, but then just also have the confidence that you'll get there.
Felicia, I've got to give it up for Janda a second, because
it's great advice, by the way.
Listening to her and listening to Behind the Song as much as I have, she's actually helped me kind of with my cadence when I talk. And so, Janda, thank you. I just want to say that publicly.
Thank you, Rudy. I appreciate that. I'm so happy to hear that. I think you sound great.
Oh, I appreciate it. Of course, you get edited me. Felicia might have something else to say about what gets cut out. But,
no, you're doing well.
No, what is something maybe you tell people or they find out about working in broadcasting that maybe they didn't know?
The hours are much longer than one might think. I had family members when I started doing radio that would say, "Oh, this is great. You're only to work 4 hours a day or whatever," and I was amazed at that, because there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. Music programming, news programming, meetings, meeting with clients and salespeople at some point, and then of course the show prep is so important. So there's more to it than just speaking into the microphone. One of the most rewarding byproducts of working in radio are the people that I've met along the way. and working with different groups that I would never have had access to, without being behind the microphone. Working with, youth groups and music education and all kinds of things like that. We're doing a promotion at the station right now. Our morning show is working with a group that trains service dogs for veterans. And we're doing a big fundraising drive, for that, to secure some service dogs for veterans who need them. It's called Give a Vet a Pet. And that's the kind of thing that I'm always amazed by, the power of bringing people together for a cause like that, or something, a good thing, is one of the most rewarding byproducts. And then in general, just the people that I meet. Everybody knows I'm a David Bowie fan. And if I go do an event somewhere, chances are someone will bring something David Bowie related, keychain or whatever. And I'm just grateful for that. It's fun. That part's a lot of fun.
Well, we could all be heroes, right?
We could all be.
We could be heroes. There you go. All right. And we're certainly not under pressure at all. So.
I had a question. So a lot of your process of, gathering information is kind of like journalism. Have you ever taken classes in journalism?
I did, yes. That's what I was doing at Central Piedmont and when I went to community college. And like I said, I started getting into radio. A station opened in my hometown. It was an alternative station, and it was brand new at the time, right at the same time that I was going to community college to study journalism. I was going to transfer out and do that. So that was kind of always in my wheelhouse. But then, I got on the radio train, as it were, and this is where I ended up. But I've always sort of fancied myself. In radio, you have to write a lot. Some people are better at it than others. I like to write, so I think it just all comes into play. And with the tenets of journalism, you want to get, if you're doing a story, if it's hard news or something that's not a puff piece about a celebrity or an artist, you want to make sure that you're well sourced and that your information is correct. And that started with my community college education. Yeah.
Were you always so interested in lyrics? Because obviously that's a lot of what you do, and when you read the lyrics of a song at the end, it's awesome. I just have to say that I feel like a super fan here, but just when and obviously for lyrics and deepness of lyrics, it doesn't get much better than Rush. But just at what point did you kind of start taking an interest at that level?
Well, you know what? I when I started doing this podcast, I wanted to get into the story quickly, because I think that's a key thing to take away too, is always getting to the point of whatever it is that you're trying to hold the attention for as soon as you possibly can. So I figured, I checked out the landscape. I knew I could do a historical something, when I was trying to come up with the concept for Behind the Song. I could find something in history, but I just figured at the end of the day that there were enough misheard lyrics in this genre. Steve Miller Band, Jet Airliner being one. I mean, just so many. Pete Townsend, Letting My Love Open the Door.
That was your most recent one, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, I figured, well, there's tons of songs like that. That's one of the funny things about classic rock, is that I think a lot of people don't know or really care every single lyric, while they're singing along. But if you're doing a history piece on the song, maybe I could tie that in. And oftentimes it would help tell the story of where the artist was coming from. Tom Petty, Refugee, he wrote the lyrics for that song when he was in a battle with for his livelihood with his record label. And then it makes the song itself come into, a clearer vision, I think, once you have the lyrics in place. Not always, but in some cases it does. And I just figure, if not all of us can play an instrument, the one thing that we all do with music is sing along, even if it's just for a couple of lines. So I thought that people would be interested in that, you know, and learning a little bit more, at least having them spoken clearly so they didn't have to look them up.
Felicia here. I have a question. I know you've done your share of interviews. Tell me your favorite interview and what was the story behind it.
My favorite artist interview?
Yes.
Okay. I that would be a two-parter. I think I would have to give my very favorite one of all time to Slash from Guns N' Roses. It was on his birthday. I was living in Los Angeles. I was interviewing him for the station I was at there, and it was his birthday. And he came by, and he was in such a I didn't know what to expect because it's Slash. We all know who he is. I didn't really know what kind of mood he was going to be in, if he was going to be talkative or not. It could go either way. He was in such a gracious mood and talked for so long. We ended up chatting, I think it was 2.5 hours, and he just wanted to stay. And he talked about how at that time Guns N' Roses were broken up, and he wouldn't rule it out, but not anytime soon. He talked about his fascinating youth. His mother was actually one of David Bowie's girlfriends at one point, and he remembered seeing David Bowie at his house when he was a kid, and his mom patching up patches on his jacket or pants or something, you know, sewing. And just a really fascinating life, and he was in the right mood at the right time, and it was the longest sit down I'd ever had with anybody, and of all people it was Slash. And I think the answer to that is just because he was in that revealing kind of a mood, you know. I've also had interviews with people where, you know, it's very quick and there's sort of one-word answers, you know, that you try to avoid at all costs, but it happens. It happens every now and again, you know. Just people are humans and they have moods, I guess. But Slash was really great. The other one was Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath.
Wow.
It was also a surprising, just a British gentleman, just pleasant and forthcoming and happy to chat and be there. And you know, you never know. You never know who's gonna be, you know, a good interview.
Janda, podcaster to podcaster, I've got to ask you this question. You have, the last time I checked, 22,900 subscribers on YouTube. Mm-hmm. LinkedIn, radio, we're doing pretty well, but I've only got 13 subscribers. What advice would you give me to kind of boost my viewership?
Okay, well, I'll say this.
I had to ask this.
Podcast, if you're talking YouTube or in general, okay.
Yeah, YouTube. No. Yeah, YouTube.
YouTube, I found that I had most of my growth after I hit the 1,000 subscriber mark. It took a long time to get to that 1,000 subscriber mark. I think maybe a couple of years even, because there's so much content out there. So consistency is the first thing.
Okay.
I think with podcasting in general, you know, if you publish on a certain day of the week, or if you publish every day, or if you publish, you know, once every other week or something like that, make that consistent so that people that do subscribe to you know that they can count on you to be there. Consistency, I think, would be my first. Hashtags are really, really important because that's how you get sourced up to people. So,
okay.
You know, I think for YouTube, it's something like, you know, you don't want to go overboard, but, you know, at least 5 to 10, you know, good, strong hashtags that are relative to what you're talking about, and to help people find your content if they're searching for
good advice. Janda, you got the junior varsity station ID 15 minutes ago. Now we're going to give you the pro station ID. Randy, go ahead.
You are listening to The President's Desk, heard on 96.9 KGPC. Check us out at kgpc969.org and also on Peralta TV.
All right, so for Behind the Song, I told you One by U2 was kind of my favorite. Do you have a personal favorite that you pull up for people?
I loved doing the story of Black Magic Woman by Santana / Fleetwood Mac, because there is so much in that story. It just the history of Fleetwood Mac alone. It goes back well beyond the rumors. The Fleetwood Mac that we know as the most successful was Stevie Nicks and Christine McVie and John McVie and Mick and Lindsay. That it started well before that, out of the blues that were coming out of England at the time, and Peter Green, the original founder of that band, was such a genius, and some of his solo work before he passed away is so heartbreaking and beautiful. And I do think he was probably a musical genius, very troubled, died, well before his time. And then the band continued on in all these forms, and then they became one of the most successful. I mean, the Rumors album is one of the most successful albums of all time. So there's just so much involved in that story. And I had so many people tell me that they had no idea that Santana didn't write that song. What Santana did do when he covered that song was fund Peter Green's life, the original writer, for many years. And that was during a time when Peter Green was not able to care for himself. So it was a good favor passed on, between, musical heroes. And just the legacy of the band, a long history of it, was just something I could really, really get my hands into. And I love that. I love that episode.
Okay, Janda, iTunes, I go in, you have your most frequently played, and you can list your songs in that order. If we were to go on to your music collection, your personal music collection, what would be kind of the first or second song that would pop up just that you listen to the most?
It would be something by David Bowie. I mean, everybody knows I'm kind of a nut. I'm a super fan of Bowie. I think probably the album that I have played the most would be between Hunky Dory and The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. But you could basically put in any David Bowie. I probably listen to a little bit of David Bowie every day, be it on the train, going home or whatever. David Bowie is my most played artist, without question.
Janda, I've got to share this. I'm actually originally from Denver, and I was watching the Broncos play. Then this was back when the old Broncos stadium shared with Denver's NBA arena. And David Bowie was playing at the arena at the same time that the Broncos were playing a game. And there was some fan that tried to go after a football that fell out of the stands or something. And the announcer said, looks like he just did a Major Tom. So I don't know.
Oh, brilliant. That's brilliant.
Yeah, I thought you might like that. Yeah.
I do. I love that.
Yeah. So just, really appreciate the time today. This has been amazing. Kind of a new direction for our show, and everything we thought it would be. Just real quick, for just a plug for your listeners. Do you want to go ahead and tell us, for our listeners, where can they find you?
You can find Behind the Song on YouTube, on the Behind the Song YouTube channel. We're on TikTok, Behind the Song at TikTok. You can find me at Janda Lane on Instagram and Facebook. You can find my radio station, WDRV, The Drive in Chicago, at WDRV.com or on Facebook, Instagram. And I think that just about covers everything. Oh, and of course, we're on iTunes and Google Play and Spotify, if you're interested in listening to Behind the Song.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. And also just thank you for inspiring podcasters out there like me.
It is my pleasure to join you today. Thank you so much for asking me to be here and for staying on it. And it's a pleasure to meet you in virtual person. And again, thank you for having me.
All the best to you. That was Janda Lane from WDRV Radio in Chicago joining us at the President's Desk. Yeah.
That's great.
So I'm going to go ahead and turn to our biology professor, back to her. What was it like just welcoming a radio producer and broadcaster to the program?
To hear her story starting from community college and where she's at now, it is truly amazing.
Yeah, no, that is. And I think one of the things with the show is we want to show people that what they're doing while they're studying, that it is on a pathway and that pathway is real. Yeah. Randy, what did you think?
I thought that was so cool. I loved hearing her story, and I loved hearing her process about how she researches for her shows.
Excellent. Yeah, no, great. Felicia, just thoughts from you?
I thought it was amazing. Just her story and just her music knowledge is incredible. The level of detail that she could drill down to is just phenomenal.
No, it was wonderful. And just kind of you being in radio and, of course, Janda being in radio, just things that you picked up?
Details, details and story that it's good to have those. It's good to have that in radio and just to be able to convey those stories.
All right. So as we close up today, Emily, want to thank you as well for joining the program. Just looking ahead, what do you think's next for you if you come back on the show maybe 10 years from now, and we're talking about what you're up to? What do you think you'll be telling us?
Hopefully, I've gone through some kind of viticulture program. So that's it.
Okay, excellent. What would be part of that, a culture program?
Oh, a viticulture program.
Viticulture. Hang on.
Viticulture.
Tell our listeners about viticulture. What is it?
What's the story behind that?
So I talked about beer a lot.
Right.
Beer's partner is wine. And this is all housed at UC Davis through their continuing education program. So I'm looking towards taking more courses, but I have to finish tenure first.
That's right. Well, you're well on your way. That's great. Well, Emily, want to thank you as well for joining us. And I see Janda waving to us as well. As we wrap up another edition of the President's Desk, we would like to thank our listeners and our Peralta TV audience up and down the great state of California, from the far north in the 710 and the 530, all the way down to SoCal in the 619. Big shout out there as always. But special appreciation to our great Laney and Peralta listeners right here in the 510, tuning in today from Lake Merritt, Oakland Chinatown, downtown Oakland, West Oakland, East Lake, Fruitvale, Diamond, North Oakland, Adams Point, Central Oakland, East Oakland, the Oakland Hills, Montclair, Piedmont, and of course, those right here at the Laney campus listening to us today. As we close up shop on this very special broadcast of the President's Desk, straighten up the chairs and turn the light off on today's program. Felicia, take us home.
Absolutely. Shout out to biomanufacturing students at Laney College. Also, shout out to Behind the Song podcast and also WDRV. Thank you for tuning in to the President's Desk, hosted by Laney College President Dr. Rudy Besakoff. It airs each Wednesday at 2 a.m. and 2 p.m. on 96.9 KGPC. And viewers can watch the show in its entirety on Peralta TV, Sundays from 1 to 2 p.m. To listen anytime, find us on kgpc969.org/programming/current shows and click on the President's Desk, or find the show directly at www.kgpc969.org/the President's Desk. Also, to stream video of the show, go to YouTube and subscribe to Laney College President's Desk. If you have a suggestion for a future show, please email us at laneypodcast@peralta.edu.
Our online flexible MBA is a unique program because it can be